The smell of rain on hot dust always takes me back to my grandmother's porch. But it's the feel of flour on my hands that takes me back to her kitchen. I must have been no more than 5 or 6, standing on a little wooden stool she kept just for me, my small hands lost in a universe of white powder. The kitchen was the heart of her little house, warm from the old cast-iron stove, even on a summer morning. A beam of sunlight, thick with dancing flour motes, would cut across the room and land right on the great wooden bowl where the magic happened. Her hands, I remember her hands most of all. They were a map of her life, the knuckles swollen slightly from years of work, the skin soft and crisscrossed with 1,000 tiny lines. But oh, they were strong. They moved with a purpose and a rhythm that was a kind of music. She would make a well in the mountain of flour, pour in the warm milk and yeast, and a little sugar for what she called waking up the sleepy ones. She never measured a thing. A pinch of this, a handful of that. It was a knowledge that lived in her fingertips. She would let me pour in the milk, my hand guided by hers, and then she'd begin to mix, her fingers folding the dry into the wet, until a shaggy, sticky mass began to form. "Now, child," she would say, her voice as soft as the dough. "This is where we show it we love it." She'd turn the dough out onto the floured tabletop, and the real work would begin. The push, fold, turn. Push, fold, turn. A steady, rhythmic thump that became the heartbeat of the morning. She hummed old hymns, quiet tunes that wove themselves into the scent of the yeast and the warmth of the room. She would give me a small piece of my own, and I would mimic her, pushing my tiny fists into the soft, yielding dough, my brow furrowed in concentration. My little lump was always clumsy, overworked and tough, but she would praise it as if it were a masterpiece. She taught me that you couldn't rush bread. It needed time to rest, to breathe, to grow. We would cover the big bowl with a clean, checkered cloth and set it in a warm corner by the stove. And then we would wait. That was a lesson in itself. In our waiting, we would shell peas on the porch, or she would tell me stories of when she was a little girl, stories that felt as ancient and comforting as the oak tree in her yard. I learned about patience in that quiet space between the kneading and the rising. When she'd pull back the cloth, I would gasp every time. The dough would have swelled, soft and alive, pressing against the sides of the bowl. She would smile, a quiet, knowing smile. See? A little patience, a little warmth. That's all anything needs to grow. The smell of it baking is a memory so strong, I feel I could almost taste it now. It filled every corner of that small house, a scent of such profound comfort and goodness that it felt like a hug you could breathe in. When the loaves came out, their tops a perfect burnished gold, she would tap their bottoms. "Listen," she'd whisper. "They're sinning. That's how you know they're done." They made a hollow, resonant sound, a little song of completion. The first slice was always ours, thick and clumsy, with butter melting into the warm, airy pockets. It was the best thing I had ever tasted or ever would. She's been gone for more years than I can count. The little house is gone too, and the old stove. But what she gave me in that kitchen remains. It wasn't just about making bread. It was about taking simple things, flour, water, warmth, time, and creating something that could nourish, something that could say "I love you" without a single word. She taught me that the work of your hands is a kind of prayer, and that patience is its own reward. Sometimes now, when my own hands are old and spotted, I see hers. I'll be washing dishes or folding laundry, and for a fleeting moment I see her strength, her gentleness in my own skin. And I understand. She wasn't just feeding me bread. She was feeding my soul. She was passing on a quiet wisdom that has been my truest compass. And in the stillness of my own kitchen, I can almost hear it, a faint, hollow thumping, like a distant, happy song.